Inscribed in ancient hieroglyphics is an ancient story. This story starts here. Egyptology is the study of ancient Egyptian history, language, literature, religion, architecture, and art from the 5th millennium BC until the end of its native religious practices in the 4th century AD. A practitioner of the discipline is considered an Egyptologist. Egyptology's modern history begins with the invasion of Egypt by Napoleon Bonaparte. Egyptology was established as an academic discipline through the research of Emmanuel de Rouche in France, Samuel Birch in England, and Henrique Bruch in Germany. So Egyptology has in essence become a coveted obsession of many European scholars. Why? And why, when Egypt is portrayed in Western cinema, is it always depicted with European people? When in actuality, Egypt has long been a black land. In fact, the original name for Egypt, Kemet, is often translated to meaning land of the perfect black. The evidence lies in the museums in Egypt, in Kemet. There is no question of the origins of the land. The hieroglyphics have been studied by two historians, archaeologists of African descent, one of whom, Anthony Browder, conducts tours in Washington, D.C., showing the Kemetic and African influences in American symbolism, particularly in the capital of the United States. The other of whom, Ra'u Nefer-Amen, who converted his name to a Kemetic one as a result of being inspired by his studies and created an entire spiritual discipline around his studies that people follow, called the Auset Society. He published several books recording his translations of the hieroglyphics. Ra'u Nefer-Amen is presented to the left, and Anthony Browder, Tony Browder, at the bottom right. That's a quote from Tony Browder saying, "To know not what happened before your ancestors were To not know what happened before your ancestors were slaves is to always remain a slave." So let's translate one of the prominent stories written on these hieroglyphics in Eastern Africa. Mind you, according to current DNA evidence, all human beings today belong to the same family group that originated in East Africa. So according to our story, not just his or their story, according to these hieroglyphics, in the most ancient of times, a Kemetic king named Ausar discovered the method of raising his consciousness to the highest division of his spirit and increasing his spiritual power to its highest potential. As a result, Ausar was able to bring civilization, a spiritually controlled way of life, to the people, with its accompanying social harmony, peace, and prosperity. Order in the land was maintained by a system that effectively developed the moral faculties in people, and by allowing only such men and women who had developed their moral faculties to hold positions in government. Ausar had a queen, Auset, who helped to rule the land. Ausar also had a brother named Set, in some translations short for Setan. It wasn't long before Ausar's youngest, less spiritually developed brother, Set, became jealous of all the adulation and homage paid to Ausar. Driven by his lust for power and the rebelliousness of his lesser developed spirit against the order and laws imposed by Ausar, Set, with the assistance of a confederacy of no-gooders, killed Ausar. Queen Auset was heartbroken. But she wouldn't allow herself to wallow in grief. In ancient Kemet, certain rites were performed to one's body to assure a safe transition into spirit realm and beyond. Auset knew she had to perform these rites for her deceased husband. This was no easy task, as Set, well aware of these rites and extremely petty, nefariously cut up his brother's body and placed him in various parts all over the land. Still, Auset was determined to do her husband justice, and assembled the pieces of her husband's body to perform his last rites. It is said in the hieroglyphics that upon performing these last rites, Auset was visited by the spirit of her husband in the night, and awoke with a full womb. 9 months later born was Heru, translated in English to Horus. Some compiled aspects of Heru's story, according to the hieroglyphics, is that he was born on a date that would equate to December 25th. He was born of a virgin. His birth was symbolized by a star in the east. He was adorned by 3 kings. He was a teacher at the age of 12, and he was baptized to ministry by the age of 30. It is also said that he had 12 disciples. This was around 3000 BC, thousands of years before modern religion. Meanwhile, with Ausar out of the way, Set usurped the kingship and proceeded to terrorize the world. He created the first empire and replaced the system of maintaining social order via moral or spiritual cultivation with a policing system. What was Setan's leadership like? Well, Set separated spirituality from the state, separated the creator from nature, separated spirit from physical matter, the divine from the mundane. In short, Set instituted an insidious system of dividing and segregating all things and people from each other and the whole. In other words, he alienated man from the Creator, the world, and himself. He distorted the truth, much like what happened in history. Still against the odds of her brother-in-law's rule, Auset knew her charge, to raise the hero, or Heru, that would save the world from destruction by his uncle. The word hero may find its roots in this name, Heru, the world's first noted hero. Heru in hieroglyphics is typically represented by a man with the head of a falcon. Why? It is said that one day, after long having trained physically and spiritually, at around the age of 30, Heru looked into the sun and became a falcon, flying into the sun. Upon his return, it was the dawn of a new day. This is the symbol used to represent Heru, the falcon with the sun above his head. According to the hieroglyphics, Heru then returned to earth to defeat his uncle and reclaim the throne back for good. It was a terrible fight, but in the end he was victorious, and he restored his mother to the throne and brought the land to honor his father once again. This struggle for morality and spirituality to reign supreme once again has been on ever since. And this epic struggle between good and evil is all told in the ancient hieroglyphics, with Heru represented by the light and Set as the absence of light. symbolized by day and night of every passing day. Hence set or sunset, and the beginning of a hero, the light of the sun upon our earth, or the sun, the holy sun of Ausar. And this epic struggle between good and evil is all told in the ancient hieroglyphics, but the question remains, is this a story that already happened, or was it foreshadowing the story of the world? And is that battle of the world also the very same battle within each and every human being? As told in the Native American legends of the wolf, or the wolves inside of each being, which wolf would you feed? Well, there's one part we left out of this story. You remember those 14 parts of Ausar that Set buried all over the world? Well, they were 14. However, Auset was only able to find 13. One part of Ausar that Auset never found. What was it? Well, when the hero rose to power once again, Heru and his mother dedicated one monument in honor of that missing piece of his father's body, symbolizing Ausar's power of fertility, the power to raise and birth more good in the world. That symbol is known as the Tekken, as you can imagine what that 14th piece was that was never found. And that very symbol is found in the capital of the United States of America. And you remember this symbol of Heru, the falcon with the sun above his head, symbolizing the day that he rose into his heroism? Well, that symbol is also found in the Great Seal of the United States of America. Look familiar? And of course we know the pyramids, those ancient structures of ancient Kemet or Egypt, is also found in the economic symbols, the dollars, money of the United States of America. This is the ever watchful eye of Heru, watching over our actions to ensure justice. This is the eye of George Washington, metaphorized as the eye of Heru in the symbol of a pyramid. Any questions? So, one question might be, these are African symbols that represent the power of good in the world. So what is a historically racist government doing with them? Why, in a place where African descendants have been locked up or killed or enslaved every day, is there a matrix of African holy codes all over your city, the capital of your country,